Hi, Carol here. A warm welcome once again to my craft room. It's so nice to have you joining me. And today I'm going to make a slimline card with a twist. I remember years ago when I first started crafting, making a card that was floating sentiment card, where I had the sentiment floating using acetate. And that stuck with me for a long time. And when I received these dies, they're hard dies that are open. So once I take off the paper and you see them in all their glory here, you'll see that they're 9-petaled open flowers. The only difference is they each have a little bit of a different design, and they're 9 petals, but basically the center of one is more rounded than the other. And I thought of, making a really pretty love-themed card using hearts with a floating aspect to them with acetate. Now, I didn't use these, although I did die cut a ton of them in white and in black because I wasn't really sure of the actual design. I was designing as I was on the go here, and see how it has the little flowers, the little hearts on the ends of the flower petals on the inside. So I had a lot of ideas as I was going, and I thought the process would be a lot of fun for you to join me and to get some inspiration off of the actual construction of this basic floating heart card. So we'll just go with it, and I hope that you'll pick out a few things that will inspire you to make a card similar to this. You'll see how if you twist the 2 die cut flowers just a bit, you're going to end up with 9 and 9 petals, so you'll have quite a few petals when you twist it. I'm showing you on my alcohol ink red sheet of paper that I have. That's where I'm going to draw my hearts from because it's nice and shiny, and I made some mistakes in some ways while I was creating this. So as always, I like to keep that in so that you don't make the same mistakes, and at the end of it, you will get a card in much less time. Now, I use page protectors because they're thicker. They're not sicker, they're thicker. And I thought, okay, I'll try cutting this die with a very thin acetate that I got off of some, my tongue is all twisted here, off of some stamps, like off of a stamp set, so it's really fine acetate. And then I'll use my page protector acetate, which is very thick, and see how it turns out. Now you're going to need quite a few of these long pieces. Now if I had it to do over again, I would have cut this much finer the first time around. But when you're using the die cutter, it's difficult to keep the acetate, especially if it's a fine acetate, in the groove to cut it super thin. And you do want the stems of your hearts to be terribly thin. And it's hard to get on this cutter for me. It was really hard without bending the acetate. So I'll show you the remedy to that. And then I got out some of my heart sets just to see if I could find a few ideas because I couldn't find my heart dies. I have a whole thing of heart dies. That make multiple hearts. Let me just say that. I have a lot of heart dies, but some that made multiple hearts. So I remember ordering this box set, a long time ago, and it was in the heart theme. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to use that from LDRS Creative, this slimline die. There's a few heart dies in there I'm going to use later on in the tutorial. But you're going to need a lot of hearts to make this exploding invisible heart card, slimline card. So you're going to want something that will cut out multiples of tiny little hearts. And let me stress the word tiny. Now, I'm going to make an envelope. I didn't put the envelope in this tutorial because it was just would have made it over 2 hours. But I remembered with the Stampin' Up! Scoring board that it has these two extra pieces. One, you can score all of these designs in there, so why couldn't you score and cut to make an envelope flap out of this? You sure could. There are lots of ways to do it. And then there's one that makes the crisscross scoring marks. So you're not going to be scoring straight, you're going to go on an angle. And I do use that in the video I'll do next of the card, the envelope I made for this. So this is the die that I found that cut out many hearts at one time. But because I'm going to need at least 100 of them, I'm going to have to go through this many times. And it's a good thing that I had the alcohol paper. You know, it is like, it's that shiny paper, you know, like for pictures, you know, that real shiny style of paper that works with alcohol inks. And I had experimented with some pink and reds way back in the day, and I kept this sheet, so I was really glad. And then this heart die has the outside die to cut out that heart, so it'll work later on. I kept that, I saved it, but you're going to see, look at, you are going to need a die with many hearts. This is where I got it from. This had hearts and donuts. I put them together. I don't think they came from the same set. As far as receiving the, it's like a monthly thing. I'll leave it in my description. It is a really nice box monthly set, and I got it about 4 or 5 years ago. So, you know, everything comes in handy, and you don't always have to be buying things, because what goes around comes around, and you just end up, you know, seeing that your older products really do hit the spot on the newer products that are out. So I'd encourage you to go into your stash and get out some of your older products and experiment with them like I am here. All right, so then I needed a nice dark red, but I chose a lighter red. You know me, yes. So instead of that burgundy red, I chose the light red because of the color of this alcohol inked paper that I'm using to the left, the upper left. And yes, I've had a sore throat, and that's why I haven't had any tutorials up, because it's been difficult to talk. So today I felt like I could get through this voiceover for you and share a fun slimline card that I enjoyed, and all of the different techniques that I was able to, you know, use, let's say, on this slimline card. So here we go. I'm taking some double-sided tape, going over the edges of this slimline card, and this is made by Pink Fresh Studio. I'm pretty sure it is. And with the 3 circles, it was in one of my haul videos back a few videos ago, and I am just, you know, going with the flow. There was absolutely no rhyme nor reason to me creating this. I just kept looking at my stash and thinking it through. The only thing I knew I wanted to do was floating acetate hearts. I wanted them to look like they were just floating in the air, and you couldn't see how they were floating. They were just out there, you know, this explosion of beautiful alcohol ink, tiny miniature hearts. And I was able to do that. Now I have 100 of those white flowers and basically 100 of the black ones to do a video on later on, because I didn't end up using them. And I think you probably realize why I didn't do it about halfway through the tutorial. So now we're going to experiment with all kinds of hearts. Whether we use them or we don't use them, that's here nor there. But I am a firm believer of keeping things in your stash to use at a later date. It saves time, it saves money, because you already had the supplies in your craft room, and it actually triggers your mind to be able to experiment with other things because you have some matching ideas already prepared in your stash. So how's that for a sentence? Yeah. So this is what I'm doing for my Saturday. It takes me the day to do a voiceover. I think it was 22 hours of work time that I needed to get down. I was hoping to an hour, but we'll see as I go along. I had this mini heart stencil from Tim Holtz. So I just sat there and I used Versamark and went along. The first time I did it, I forgot to put the powder on. So I was dealing with some strays. But I did work it out. You can see to the left there, it doesn't look that bad. Then I grabbed my baby powder and put it on there liberally. And we have some cutesy wootsy little gold hearts using this stencil. I love this stencil because it has two shape sizes on it. The smaller on the top, the large on the bottom. So you could basically just follow, put the stencil onto a few of the hearts so that you can follow it along with ease. And you basically can't mess up. The only thing that you mess up with is putting your oily hands on the baby powder, and then it doesn't stick as well, but you can always go back. Like I tell you, there's always a way to fix things. I never get discouraged because I've messed up. I think one time in this video I did, and I ended up getting rid of it because I couldn't fix it. There was no way I could have fixed the mistake. So we'll share that later. Now, I wanted this to be behind these 3 acetate red circles. You can see the circles already come with the holes in it, and it comes with the dots alongside the holes. But this is where I started thinking, whoa, I can't put white or black flowers on there. Well, I could have, but it really would have been difficult to see all of the floating explosion hearts that were seated on the thinnest line of acetate you've ever seen, so that it looked like there was nothing actually holding these tiny hearts in the air, but it was acetate. It was a heart on each side of the end of the acetate cut super thin, but I didn't cut them super thin first when I was using my cutter. I couldn't get it without falling into the ledge. So I thought, well, I'll just take a long pair of scissors and cut them off later at the end. Oh, yes. So I took my fan brush, got rid of some of the strays, and then I'm going to move on here. Another Tim Holtz kind of a love-themed stencil. I'm going to spray some pixie spray on there so it sticks. If I had to do this over again, using a paper stencil, see how the Tim Holtz isn't, it's plastic. But that red sheet is paper. You get it on a paper pack from Michael's, and you don't want to spray the back of it. And I'll tell you why. You probably figured it out already. This is Heidi Swapp Gold paste, but that pixie spray starts to dry, and the stencil on the right, the red one, is only paper. And paper, when you put liquid to it, or, in this case, the paste, it stuck to the black piece of, paper underneath. But I did figure it out, and I was able to use this. I really was. I'm not one to throw stuff aside. And then I'm going to take this stainless steel scraper that I have, and I think that's from Dream Weavers, the half moon stencil scraper thingy up there in the left hand corner. And now I'm applying a lot of it. This was not good either. I should have left it with just one application, because what I'm doing is I'm giving it time to dry to the black piece of paper. And you'll see that underneath the Tim Holtz plastic paper, it doesn't stick, the pixie spray at all, because it's plastic. But there I go. I mean, how many layers do you want to put on that thing? I don't know, Carol. Tell us. Many. That's what I did. Many. Now let's try to lift them off the black sheet of paper. This one, that was pretty good. That's not that bad because they're only going to go behind those circles, right? So I don't need to use all of the words. And the sides of it, that's kind of yucky. I don't need to use that. But watch this. When I take this, oh yeah, I'm struggling. There we go. Paper stuck. But don't throw that out. Don't throw the one you just used as your stencil out, because you're going to leave that to dry and you're going to use it as an actual piece behind another slimline die. So I took off as much of the paper as I could, because in the back of my mind, I knew I'm only using sections of it to go behind those circles. So that was cool. I left it, I set it aside, and then I'm going to show you that Heidi Swap has some to the right there. She has some paper stencils you can buy. They're less expensive. And then I got these just from a Michaels pack, which I will show you. There, I didn't put any pixie spray on the back. I'm just holding it with my finger, not taping it, nothing. I'm not worried whether I have 4 pounds of the actual paste I'm using. You can see that, and these are different sheets too, by the way. Yeah, I'm not using the same piece of paper over and over, but you can see that it is attaching itself. So I would suggest, when I got out like this one, this is another sheet, I squirted out some of the metallic texture paste from Heidi Swap that I had in my stash. It comes in a little tub, as you can see in the lower left there, in 3 fluid ounce tubes. So they're really nice to have. Now look at that. Ooh! And you can tell that I didn't put a lot of the paste, or if I did, I'm just getting another stencil. I just wanted a few of those dots to put inside another die cut that I was using, and it's the Heidi Swap Circle stencil. But the Heidi Swap paper is much thicker than the paper that I'm using from this paper pack that I bought at Michael's, and I will show it later on. It is really nice paper pack for stencils, even though it is paper, but boy, you get 6 of the same paper designs in there, and look how nice that metallic paste looks on the top of the stencil. So I just went with the flow and made it, got myself together. And I also wanted to say this too, if you're still with me here, that black mat that I have there, that's from the dollar store where nothing's $1. It was $3 for 2 of these barbecue liners. You put them on top of your barbecue and you're supposed to get the grill lines and it's supposed to heat up really well. Well, my husband didn't want to put that on the grill. Like when I bought it, he said, no, this isn't going to work. And not only that, they're only $3 and I don't want any of the food heating up onto, a T-bone steak. Now they do make these mats that are like thicker and they're Teflon and whatever. This was from sorry, I'm just reaching ahead to get something here. Get your head out of the way there, Carol. And, I'm plugging something in. And it's my little Anna Griffin Empress, which isn't so little. The small one isn't so little. So come on, Carol, get out of the way. Yes. Oh, and I'm picking up, this was really funny. I have a fan, like a floor fan that I put on sometimes blowing down by my feet if it gets too hot up here in my craft room. And I turned it on and forgot that I had 500,000 hearts sitting there, and guess where they went? Oh yes, all over my craft room. Underneath everything, everywhere. So once I got that put back in the little pile again, I took out my Empress Mini. Isn't that awesome? It's just like a full-blown die cutting machine to me, except for the big one is rather big, and the small one's kind of medium big. I really love it, and it's so quiet. This mini, I got it in my haul. Remember, it was $50. I got it from Anna Griffin's site for $50. That was amazing because I think they were regular $185 or something. So let's move on now that we've got that all that thought out. I'm using my real inexpensive gold paper from Michaels. This is not the good Anna Griffin gold paper. This is the El Cheapo from Michaels. But even though it's $6.99 for the pack of 50, it comes in handy because it's really metallic and it's nice and it's great for putting as layers behind something if you just want to have, you know, a little strip around the edges, or like in my case, the gold parts. Love this gold thread that I'm using, and I'm using my dental floss threaders. These are great for sewing, you know, so you don't have to use a metal needle. They have a big eye at the end, a large eye, and they're terrific for sewing in paper. So I made a knot at the end of this gorgeous thread. Oh, I love it. And we are going to take it and we're going to weave it from one hole to the opposite hole in the center, because that's going to be a shaker. And I have done many videos with using this thread. If anything has a hole in the paper, as far as the die design, take your thread and go in and out, in and out, in and out, to make this beautiful star-like gold, which shines forever and ever. It's beautiful. But the first time I did it, I wasn't watching that I met up in the middle with the sewing. It was starting to move its way down towards the bottom of the circle. And I had to cut it out and start again. I couldn't have that. You have to watch that it actually meets up. And you'll see that when you look at the picture here. You want to maneuver the thread so it's always meeting in the center. And if you do so, which I'm not a great seamstress or anything, but I know it has to meet, you have to keep your thumb and keep it in the center as you're moving your needle from top to bottom. So that's what I'm talking about here. And then I knew, as I was looking at my die cut flowers, I needed to die cut some acetate flowers so that it was see-through. And the reason for that is because of what I put behind the circles. And it will all make sense, my friends, once you see the center, you know, what I put behind each circle and what my thought process was to put on the outside of the hearts. And that's why I went back. Remember, we had a red cutout? Well, I went and got black because I thought the red hearts would stand off black much better than they did the red, because red on red, obviously it'd be a little bit more difficult. So here I took my tape runner and I went around as much as the paper as I could on this die cut, this slimline circle die cut, scallop die cut, and I put a piece of acetate behind there after I got my sewing with my gold thread finished. I taped down the sewing ends with just Scotch tape, and now I have to decide what I'm going to do. So I took, this is my recording, this is my record player that lets loose on some Scotch tape there. Isn't that cute? Oh, I love that. I got it at our stationery store at Beatty's. They always come out with a retro something or other with their tape line. And so there we go. There's our heart thing. There's our metallic Heidi Swap texture paste. And I'm going to cut out another one for the opposite side. And then I'm going to leave the middle free because I'm going to put some beautiful glass beads behind there and make it a beautiful glass bead shaker. because nothing is more beautiful than glass beads behind gold thread in a starburst shape. It looks gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And this is where I start getting into my slimline card right here. And the idea, like I said, is coming to me step by step as I'm creating. I don't have a visual, but I really do have to tell you, I like that black barbecue mat. There was 2 of them inside this package. It is, let me see, I have one right in front of me. It is 16 inches by 16 by, let me just count the squares here. Oh, we're moving along. 16 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16 by 13. 13 by 16 inches for that black barbecue mat. And I love it. I love it because the camera takes to it. The camera doesn't take well to white. It does to the other mats you typically get, but I had this in my kitchen, and I thought, well, my husband would prefer I not use it on the barbecue, so what am I going to do with it? Oh yeah, up to the craft room. Everything goes up to the craft room. So now I'm getting out my Doris little tiny strips, and I'm going to go around, and you know that if you take the top and the bottom off of the strips, you know, that's protecting the sticky, take them both off, and they really do well going in a circle. They make a nice circle that way. So that's just a given here on this. I learned that through, you know, doing it with it and without it. And it worked better without it. And I'm making it too high so I can put my beads in there. I already have my acetate, as you can see, on the bottom. And here's that roll of tape that I bought. Oh, I can't remember where I got this one. It is super sticky, and yeah, it works well. It's not as high up as the Scotch, which I like that too, but I ended up making it too high, of course, because right here I needed it to be even with the too high center beaded shaker middle. So I take all of this off, and then I ended up putting some Scotch on there. I went around again to make it higher up. And then in the center, I didn't want it to wobble, like to, you know, concave at all. So I put a few strips of the same double-sided tape there, roll, and then I added a few pieces of the Scotch roll. And yeah, I'm running out of the Scotch roll, so I'm using it liberally, of course. That stuff is cheap. Now the reason why I went with my beads right here, these dark red beads, is because, as you can see, the other beads are very pale in comparison. You know, they're not shiny at all. They're like a matte bead. So I thought, no. And then I'm going to add into my shaker here from Michaels, I'm going to add some gold and some see-through clear hearts that I had in my shaker up there that you get at Michaels. So I filled that up so that it would shake, you know, and I really like it. So now we're going to remove all of the tape, and we're going to put that black 3-hole punch die circle scallop piece. How else do you say it? I don't know. Yeah, it's so wonderful to be back, and thank you very much if you're taking time out of your day to view my tutorial. I hope that you're able to be inspired and take some of the ideas that I put out there into incorporating a slimline card of your own. And I do encourage you to try this out as well. Here I'm going to put my acetate. This is my thick acetate now. My page protectors that I use. Because page protectors are much thicker than buying acetate by the sheet. This comes in 8.5 by 11 inch sheets. You get 102 a pack. And I get them at the stationery store. So I'm just going to cut them out with my long scissors. Yes. Now, because I did that rounded corner right there, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to round it out. So now I'm going to put another cover on top. which I like very much. You know, you don't see the same amount, but it does look nice to have one seated up on top of the other. So I went with that, and I liked it. Now, I want to have gold circle on the middle one. I wasn't sure about the outside ones yet, but I knew I wanted to have it in the center. So all you have to do is get yourself 2 round dies and put one larger one in the middle of the gold sheet here, and then a smaller one that's exactly even to the rounded die cut that you have here. So one of the dies is going to fit perfectly on the dotted circle of this die, slimline die, and the other one is going to be larger so that I can get a round circle out of this. So I'm going to do it to each of them. So I have 3 outline borders. As soon as I'm finished here, you'll totally get it. And yeah, and I was so glad that I had, generally you can get round sets, like die sets, you can get one of them to fit just about any other die that you have that you're working with. You generally find, one or two that match nicely, and there was enough space in between so I could get out the, just the center of the scallops. And I'll show you what I mean right here as I go along. I don't need to keep them on the same piece. I'm going to cut them evenly on each side, and then I'm going to work on getting that center piece to be a nice piece to put on the black paper. So let's get our round die cuts on here. This one, the edge has to fit around the dots so that they are on the outside of the dots, and we'll cut that piece out, which will be fabulous. I just love it. So let's find the top piece to this and we'll cut away. I did so many like double die cuts, I'll call them, throughout this video that I think you'll really love the technique of it all. So here we go. We're going to run it through. Let's start. Let go, Carol. You don't need to have your hand on it. And then you can press the reverse and it'll just, the reverse you have to keep your finger on the presser thing, but not for the go button. It'll just go. And it's so nice to have it so nice and light that you can pick it up, put it in your space, and then put it back. So here we go. Let's see what we have after we die cut this out. And it's a beautiful circle. I hope it's a beautiful circle. Let's see what I did there. It's going to go in the middle. Love it. I'm just staring at it. Hopefully it cut nicely. Let's see. What do I have to do to this? I'm not sure if I gave it enough pressure maybe. I don't know. Let's see what Carol does next, because it's just seated there. Didn't even take it out of the edit. Oh, here we go. Okay, so did I have to take a different size one? Now that's weird that I did this. Let's see. Isn't that something? You learn something new every day, even with your own video. Let's start it, and I want to see just what's happening here. Woo! Get it back there. Woo! Must have sped this section up. And take it off. There we are. Oh, so I guess, I don't know. Looks pretty good though, doesn't it? Let's see what I did there. I hope I do it again so I can figure it out myself. That looks good. So I cut 3 of them out anyway. Let me see. One for over top of this one. The scallops meet nicely. But you have to make sure you take all the little dot pieces out, that managed to stay inside this gold paper. Because like I said, this is not expensive gold paper. It's rather flimsy. It has a white back to it. And yeah, the little pieces parts wanted to stay in there, but I worked at it. Not that bad, just a few of the dots I had to take out. And let's see what I do with the next one. Oh, so you do have to put 2. Okay. So you put one that matches the dots. All right. That matches the dots on there. That's what I'm saying. That dotted. Oh, I'm making the dots. I get it. So okay. Okay. This is my own video. It has a cut and it has a dot. So each one of the circles has a dot that doesn't cut. It just embeds these dots into it. So I'm making my dots bigger, and then I'm putting the cutter one next. So this pass will be just making the dots bigger, and the next pass will be cutting it out. Oh, I'm wondering to myself, Carol, it hasn't been that long ago that you completed this card, and why isn't that cutting out? Because it doesn't have cutting edges, Carol. It has dotted edges, not cutting edges. And then I take the big circle with the actual cutting edge, and then I cut it out. Well, look at there. Oh, I'm so glad I was able to show you that. That would have been crazy. I would be looking at my card trying to think, what did I do? That's what I did. And isn't it pretty to add the gold over top? So not only for somebody that likes heavy cards, I am getting heavy cards here, because I am layering and layering and layering and layering and loving it. I love, love, love heavy cards. So let's see what we're doing now. I am thinking to myself, okay, on this, okay, here's the strip of the 1/16 of an inch that I cut out of my acetate. We are going to cut all of these pieces right there, all of these 1/16 of an inch pieces. One of them is thicker. The middle one is the smallest one. We are going to cut that so fine that it's going to be crazy. But before you cut it, you want to have the thick end to put your hearts together, because one heart is going to seat one way and the other heart's going to seat the other way. So you're going to get your nice hearts there that we cut out. You're going to place one heart face up and one heart face down with some glue, liquid glue, and then after it dries, you're going to take your acetate and cut it as thin as you possibly can, so that that heart looks like it's floating in the air. That's the key, my friends, that your stripped acetate pieces are very fine, but you don't want to do it before that, because you want the acetate that's underneath the heart to be very, very, like, to be originally as thick as it was, if that makes sense. So you can see I'm cutting it as fine as I can, but I'm leaving the top piece a little thicker so that my hearts stick to there. Then, if I can, I'm stripping them in 2, and some were thick enough I could strip in 3 and have 3 stuck to one piece so that they would fan out when I put my exploding heart card down. Hearts, hearts, hearts. We're full of them today, my friends. We're just hearted out. Yes, from my heart to your heart. I hope that you are enjoying this and gleaning some inspiration from it. So here we go. Let's see if we can get some glue out there. Then all of a sudden, later on, as I'm doing this, can you believe this? One heart at a time. Oh, I thought I'm never going to get finished these. I have 2 acetate flowers, and I'm going to show you what I did with those. And I have to do a couple of hundred of these hearts one at a time. I'm going to have to camp out in my craft room for sure. Then the light bulb went off, my friends, and look what I did. So here I want you to get the full extent of how I was doing this. I put my hearts in a bowl, in a top lid. I had a plastic lid. And this is how I was doing it. One acetate strip, put on some glue, held it down with my nail, grabbed it with my picky tool, my pokey thing that I have ortho wax on the end of it. It works wonderfully when the sticky is done off of your sticky picker-upper sticks that you bought. I put one on the top, one on the bottom. Go on to another one on the top, a little bit of glue. Put your thicker piece of acetate on there. And I was doing this until halfway through. I thought, wow, there's got to be an easier way than this. Look at all the hearts that I have left. This is going to be absolutely a day job. Just sitting here, putting the acetate in the middle, closing it up, put more glue on top of the... Oh, yeah. Oh, I forgot to put glue. Did I put glue? Did I not put glue? Yeah, that was the question, my friends. Then, when my exploding heart idea brain went off, I thought, no, Carol, stop. You don't have to do this. You're torturing yourself. Here I go. Yeah, all these explosions went off. I grabbed my purple tape right there. Watch. I put the ends, I flipped the ends over and I stuck it to my black barbecue mat. And look at, they're sticking. Wow, let's go. This was insane. I could have saved so much time if my brain had a computer doing this. I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't. There. And now you go get your acetate strips, put some glue. Boink, 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 boink. Boink, 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 all your glue. Grab those acetate strips. And here we go. 1, 2. Yeah, here we go. Oh, I should get a medal for this. I can't believe it. This is just crazy that I thought of this late in the game. But it's better later than never. That's what I always say. So I was having a good old blast with this, let me tell you. Then you just have to put the glue on top of your heart and move forward to your heart's content. And this here, I was smiling the whole time. I thought, this is fabulous. Just fabulous. It makes this project just go by so quickly. There we go. Boink, 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 boink. I guess I only did a few this time. Maybe the end ones dried a bit on the last go. We shall see. Now, if you're going to do this same method for making explosive hearts that are translucent and as much as possible with the acetate that's holding them up and out in the air, you're going to want to, with some of them that are thick here, we're going to cut them in 2, and some of them are thick enough that we can actually cut them in 3. So here's the purple tape. I put it down to my barbecue mat here, the black barbecue mat, and we're going to take these stems and cut them as fine as we can and add them. First we're going to add our little hearts. Isn't this amazing? I wish I had thought of this way earlier. But like I said, thank you that I was able to think of it later on. And you can see how I split the acetate into 2 and 3. And some of them I cut a little lower than the others so that when I put these little strips onto our acetate flowers with the explosive explosion of hearts that are going to be as see-through as possible, and they're going to be floating in the air, we're going to be able to have doubles and triples of the split acetate. And I found that to be truly a cool idea. I'm so thankful I was able to think this up. One night I was just sitting there thinking about a tutorial I could do, and I remembered my floating sentiment card, and I thought, hearts. We'll do some floating. Instead of sentiments, we're going to do some floating hearts. So that's what we're doing, my friends. You and I. We're just sitting here adding hearts, hearts, hearts. Now, I die cut some of these flowers, like the white and black ones, in acetate. Some in thin acetate, some in my thicker acetate. It really didn't matter because for some reason I could not get that die to push down far enough to cut the guts out of the flowers. Because you can see in the black and white ones, they're all just thinly lined flowers. So what I had to do with this was kind of like testing my patience and how much I like to do intricate things. So it's a good thing I have a little bit of both. So here I'm taking it off the purple tape, just boing, 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 get it off there, piling them up, getting ready for stage number 962 that we're in, because we're still, no matter how much I try cutting the time off, I'm still over an hour, but I'm giving it a go. I keep stopping and thinking to myself, do I need to put this in there? Do I need to put that in there? And I guess I needed to show you how I release them and make sure they're dry. Make sure they're dry. And the reason I didn't use the thinner purple tape that I have, it's not as sticky. So that's just it in a nutshell. Now, when I die cut these, the outer edges die cut perfectly, but the guts didn't. So I took out one of my cutting knives and I simply, why aren't my hands moving right here? This is very odd. It's like I'm looking at my screen and I'm frozen. I hope that you're not frozen on your side. Oh, there we go. I must have fixed it. I don't know. But I'm just showing you that I cut the guts out of the centers. Now, I skipped a center so that my acetate strips could, lean up against something. And you'll see what I mean in a minute. But I did go around each one of these. I just turned it. Make sure your cutting knife is nice and sharp. And this will go along reasonably smooth. It's a smooth sailing cutting if your blade is sharp. So here we go. I'm showing you that I went up one and I'm taking them out. Now sometimes it's easier to come out when your die cut is bubbled on the outside, it's facing you, or the indented part. You have to figure that out for yourself with what type of acetate you have. Then I realized I only needed to do half the guts here because I only need enough to slide one of my pieces of stripped acetate that's holding the card. I only need it to be thick enough to fit through this section, and that's so that when I set them through each one of these holes, some will be floating higher than the others, and you'll see that in the pictures on the end. So there we have it, my friends, all of our floating hearts. I am going through every single one and making it as thin as possible up to the heart end. So at the bottom of the heart, I'm putting them down, just cutting them different lengths and setting them aside, and then I will carry on making the card. And you can see it's a rather intense card. Yes, it is. But it's only intense because I had to figure things out as I went. If I had saw this on another tutorial, I would have known what to do and what not to do. But I didn't. This was totally my own design. So I had to, go with the flow and take the good with the bad and make it work. That's the key, isn't it, my friends? Just making it work. Should I make this shorter? Should I make it longer? Can I get it so super thin that you'll hardly see these bursting away from the acetate hearts? And, I think it really would have worked as well if I did black it or the white. I don't know why I was thinking acetate would have been better until I got out my 3 die cut slimline base. And then you'll see, oh yeah, I'm speeding it up like crazy. What do you need to see all that for, right? Go, 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 go. Yeah. And I'm showing you the difference right there. So here I'm just, I slowed it down to show you that we are getting, I'm putting the doubles and the triple sliced ones to one side. Because as I'm designing, you can see the difference in this thickness that I started with to what I ended up with. Nice and thin like that. Isn't that beauteous? And that was about as thin as I could get it, holding on to that double-sided heart. I was super happy. And I knew that the rest of the card would go great, And like I said, yes, it would work with the white or the black die cuts. But I'll tell you why I did the acetate. I wanted to see the hearts there that we put the paste on, I wanted to see that. So here I just want to show, I need to cut a bit of it wasn't even, the gold layering wasn't even. And oh yeah, I'm thinking, oh Carol, keep this steady. You're using a cutting knife. Turn it the other way, your right hand. Yeah, that's not going to work. Don't go under your armpit. Turn it around. Put it down. Yes, you'll figure it out. Do I need a different ruler? Yes. This has a nice metal edge to it. So I'm putting it down. I'm holding it with all my muscles. And then I'm going to cut. Can you imagine cutting under your armpit? What was I thinking? And looky, it's just as beauteous as I wanted it to be. So once I get that cut off and I see that everything is honky-dory and I'm happy with it and I have a nice slim gold edge to my slimline card, I'll show you why I wanted acetate. And of course, it's because we went to so much trouble getting that stencil, that paper stencil, to stencil on these beautiful hearts, right? These hearts, I think, were the ones that I put the embossing powder on. It's hard to tell. Yes, it is, because the other ones with the stencils have red. Boy, they are hard to figure out. But I will as we move forward. Now, in designing these miniature hearts and grabbing which heart is which to do it, you know you want it to stagger. Everyone has to stagger in some fashion so that it looks like it's exploding. But because I have two acetate flowers on top of one another, you could see the hot glue. And I needed to cover the hot glue. But I put the red on there, but I took it off. I ended up at the end of the card with another color. And we will see. I'm going to surprise you. It's not red, but you will figure it out, I'm sure. And now we're going to glue this down. There was no way of getting around with putting something there in the center. The glob of glue that was holding my two flowers down, it was too glooby. So I just, decided to go with the heart. And I went with the acetate flowers because of wanting to see my beautiful hearts that we made underneath that scalloped opening. So we have the gold going around the center, we have the beautiful sewn gold thread, and we have the beautiful red beads, the glass beads with the gold and the clear, the iridescent ones, the hearts that I had. And doesn't that look nice? I mean, it would look nice just like that. If you put a little sentiment down on the bottom strip going across, it would have been nice. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted exploding hearts, and that's what I got. And you can see the hearts underneath beautifully in person. The glare off of my 400 billion lights around my island is not being true to how clear this acetate is showing, so that you can see the hearts underneath. I took a picture with my iPad so that I could look at it and see, how translucent it was, and it was very, very nice. So how I got the hearts to stick is I got my mini glue dots. I got out mini glue dots, and then I took some of my bigger glue dots out of this Elmer glue dot punch thingy I got at the dollar store where nothing's a dollar. There's got to be 5,000 glue dots, so that when you press that mechanism down, it releases a glue dot. So I press it down with my fingers, and I get my pokey tool and I grab it from there, and I'm putting these all around the acetate to hold my beautiful hearts, my floating hearts, my see-through hearts, my acetate stemmed hearts. That's how big they are. I just put it on the back of there with this. If you ever see it at your dollar store where nothing's a dollar, I hope you do get it for $1, but I didn't. But there's 5,000 glue dots in there. So now you're going to use the glue dots to your benefit here. You're going to design now, cutting off the ends and placing them down on top of all these glue dots. The glue dots are going to be on the places where you can't see the glue dots, of course, and you're going to make them all different lengths. And you're just going to keep going round and round like I did with the top one. Some will be longer, some will be shorter. You don't want to put too much in the middle, my friends, because you're not going to see the flower, nor are you going to see your beautiful metallic Heidi Swap texture paste hearts. You're not going to see that either. So that's the reason why I went with the method that we're going with right here. And I was totally satisfied, my friends. I really was totally satisfied. So we're just going to move forward doing this. We're going to add one flower on top of the other flower, and then the total flower design on top of our slimline scallop black cardstock. So here you have it, my friends. We're just going to move around and around, and even in the top left heart explosive flowers, if you see a space that you think needs to be filled, go ahead and fill it until you've used up all of your hearts. And that's what makes this explosive. Here I'm replacing it with the long, thin heart that I had. It's a Stampin' Up! 3 heart punch, I think. This is what it's from. Yes, it is. You get 3 different sizes. You get a fat heart, a skinny heart, and a small heart, and I chose the Slimline. Of course, the Slimline gold heart to put in the center. I think I do it too high because I wanted it to really come off of the acetate flower, which it did. I like it better for some reason than the actual red heart, drawing the eye right to the big red heart. I wanted the eye to go to the floating hearts. The exploding, floating hearts. Exploding, floating hearts. That's what I'm going to call it. Should write that down. I'll forget it in 2 seconds. Exploding, floating hearts. Took some hot glue, put it down in the center. Just make sure you don't glob it too heavy so that it extends beyond your 2 hearts that you have there on top. But super, super satisfied with this. And now we have to make a base. I want to have a little thin strip of red underneath the gold. We're going to have a lot of layers here, my friends. We're going to have the black, the gold, then the fine layer of red. I think I end up doing that. I don't know what I'm doing there with my left hand. Whether I'm trying to count to 3, I don't know. When you get this far into the video, you could be doing anything. You could be pulling your hair out. You could be bouncing off the floor. I mean, you haven't got a clue what I'm doing on the other end, right? So there we have it. You can see my Lazy Susan to the right where I have my die cutting machine. Best thing ever. If you didn't see that in my last tutorial, here I'm distressing with the scissors because I ended up cutting a piece of that red paper wrong. And I thought, well, I'm not using up more red paper. I'm going to just distress the edges quickly. And that's what I did. Now, I had a piece of 8.5 by 11 inch cardstock. I needed to make it work. So that's where the idea of having the, whatever that design is called. I'll tell you in a second. You know, the one where you have 3 folds and then the one fold. Yeah, get it the right way. So here we go. I'm going to put the red down first. I'm going to score it. Where's my score tool? I'm going to score it with just a little bit to the edge. I'm going to make 2 score marks so that I have a gusset. Of course, I always gusset everything just to give me some room. For nothing else, for any other reason but to give me some room for putting the card, to have some depth to it, you know. So I did 2 or 3 of them. I can't remember. This white cardstock is not my heavy duty. I think it's only 100 pound. It is not my 140 pound. It would tear too easily. So I thought I have enough layers on each one of these folds. It's not going to matter that it's lighter weight white paper. Then I folded it in half and I made another 3 gussets. 1, 2, or maybe 2. I don't know. And I'm going to fold it backwards. But when I folded it backwards, you can see it's not the same amount, obviously, as in height or depth, whatever you want to say here. It was shorter at the bottom, but that's okay because I'm going to make one of those cards that, oh, I got to think of the name of that card. Just a second. An easel card, of course. It sits up like an easel, and I paint, and I have all kinds of easels all around my studio, so I don't know why I couldn't think of an easel card. But this is the beautiful Anna Griffin gold. This is the flat matte gold, thick and beauteous, my friends. This is where I get the stability into my lightweight. Could be 80-pound white cardstock, I'm not sure. But I'm going to make one layer here, knowing that this is for the weight only. If I was doing it just for the show and go of it, I would have cut the guts out and just used the edge of this beautiful paper because it's, you know, it's not an inexpensive paper, and I would have, you know, wanted to use the guts on another project. But here I needed my slimline base to be raised and not, you know, sink in the middle. So I just put some of my ATG gun tape. Then I put liquid tape. It doesn't matter that it shows there because I'm covering it up. Now, this is not the outside, right? This is the inside of the card. So this is where I get to use my red sheet that we die cut out of the same die. I'm going to cover it with the paper now. We're going to use that paper. You know, I made about 3 of these Heidi Swap metallic texture paste with the paper stencil that we got at Michael's. Well, I don't think you're with me, but I'll say we got it together because we're sitting together as I'm crafting. I took the words I wanted to be shown here without covering the dots. Excuse me, I wanted to cover the dots. I took my pokey tool here, and it's my book binding pokey thingy. Cut some more of that gorgeous thread using my wonderful dental floss threader. And we are going to sew all the way around the dots. All the way around. See, I made the dots bigger so it wouldn't be so intense. I'm putting some tape down to hold my thread, and we're just going to sew away. And I'm going to even, you know, I'm going to go across, and then I'm going to go back around the second time, getting my thread so it doesn't hit, you know, if I do it all at once, like if I was to back up the first time, I risk it coming out. So this way I went around the first time, and then I backed up, turned around and went the other way so that all the holes were filled with this magnificent gold thread. Because the thread in this gold is so fine, and you get all of these beautiful gold, I don't know what it is, like thread. No way. It's gold thread. I can't even think anything. I'm so tired. And we only have a little bit to go, my friends. We're almost to the end of this design. So I went ahead and finished this up. I'm going to take some of my fabulous Scotch tape and tape down the thread. And there you have it. Isn't that pretty? I really love the design. Here is the top part of the stencil where I got my idea to make the gold metallic paste come off the black paper. I'm going to use this piece, and it's beautiful. That paper has metallic to it, my friends. So if you see this paper at Michael's, this paper pack, I think there's like 140 sheets of different designed heart stencils inside of it. And just because it's paper, that doesn't mean anything. You get to not only use the gut sections when you emboss, but you get to use the outer edge with the gold on it. And it is beautiful, I have to say. It really is a different look. I did one on each side. I just cut the nice pieces parts out. The ones that were, you know, that I went over and it was evenly placed. And there you have it. Isn't that sweet? And now I'm making the holes a little bigger with my book binding pokey tool. And that's it. Look at that, over top of the red. The gold metallic paste over top of this red is, there it is. Whoa! It just flew down. And look at all of these colors. This was red. I'm trying to find a red one. Where's the red one? It's in there. I don't know if you get 4 of each one, but that, if you ever see that, generally on this Valentine thing they have going for February, you'll find this stuff and this pack. And I think it was way after the Valentine thing. I got it for like 80% off for that pack. So that's what I do. I just wait for the sales. So here we go. Here's that roll of tape. I love this. It's much less, as far as cost effective, than the Scotch tape, and it's stickier. The only difference is it's not as high up as the Scotch. It's just a little bit less, but that's okay. You don't need to put liquid tape behind that, my friends. It's sticking for life. And here we go. I thought, now what? Yes, now it's going to be an easel card. I haven't made an easel card forever. This was so much fun for me. And then I get to use all of my heart dies. LDRS Slimline card dies has a lot of nice little die cuts. They have a square, circles, and hearts on the one die. So I incorporated that into my design here and was super happy. Then I went to my stash and I found some my Anna Griffin papers, and it had little roses with these vines. I matched them up perfectly. I put double-sided tape down, and we're going to seep that paper, and you're not even going to tell there's a seam in it. Oh no, I made sure of that. So I got out my Suquang tape, put it down, and take off the tape. I don't know if I put liquid tape too. Probably did, because I'm working with paper and I wanted it to move. Make sure your oh, it didn't. Ooh. Make sure your seams match. Oh, this is why I cut it. I cut it this way. This was so much, stress relief doing it that way. So there you have it. And then the one I needed to take a see if we can see a little piece off of the edge. Not much. I could just tell it wasn't cut perfectly straight. And there you have it. So here's the Slimline die from LDRS Creative. And I took the scallop because the die I'm using from Pink Fresh Studio is scalloped for the Slimline die. So did this work out perfect or what? Then I was able to use my black paper that had the Heidi Swap metallic texture paste put on it. And we're going to die cut. I die cut so many pieces you wouldn't believe it. And then the leftovers I'm going to use on my envelope. And if I still have more left over, I will put them in one of my little dust bags, the dust card protectors, seal it up and put it in with the die so I can use it at another time. I really enjoyed this. And then another thing, you want to watch where your heart is as far as your design, the way the hearts, are up and down so that they're not cattywampus, unless you want it that way. I don't mind cattywampus hearts. It doesn't bother me, but I did watch for them all going in the same direction. And yeah, it was, that's about all, because you can see I didn't watch the little ones. I just, a little bit. Then I thought, okay, let's put this one through. It's working out beautifully to use up all the paper. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to waste any of the paper. And as you will see, I'll do some black outer edge scallops die cuts, and I'll use whatever else I'm thinking of as I'm doing it. So there's the seam to the right. You can hardly see it there. So I thought, all right, that one's got to go. I'm going to I'm going to stack 3 tiny scalloped hearts, like 3 small scalloped hearts together. We have that polka dot piece that I'm going to use for the back of the card, but right now I have to raise something up so that it seats the card, which is very heavy, so it stops it from falling down. You want to have that tent design to your easel card, right? So that's what I did. I just kept cutting, cutting, cutting. Just sat there and cut my die cutting machine was going crazy. I cut my brains off. It's just like I was cutting, 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 and making all kinds of designs, all shapes and sizes, and outers and innards and all kinds of things that I could sit and have fun using. And look at that. I love taking that scallop and taking the guts out of the scallop and, making it thin so that you could only see the hearts on the actual bottom scallop piece, if that makes sense to you. I know I'm kind of all over because the video, like I said, was 22 hours long, and I'm trying to keep everything as quickly as I could in the edit. So here we go, my friends, when all the cutting's done and over. And I cut into my magnet plate, and this magnet plate I have not changed out in the small machine, and it is die cutting. It doesn't leave any marks whatsoever, and it embosses at the same time, and my plates stay as fresh as can be. There's no indents or warpness going on. So now I wanted to raise these hearts up with that, the white double-sided roll. That's just a little bit less than the actual Scotch roll. I'm going to raise it up 4 high in the middle. Okay, here I'm just experimenting. I did need to cover that. There's how it's going to stop it. I'm going to have it 3 or 4 high, I can't remember, plus the height of the tape also, which makes it higher. And now I just need to make it even, so I'll take my ruler here and measure it, put it down, and yeah, it's gorgeous. Love it. And there you go. It just pops right into that groove of the heart. Now I got to concentrate on making sure you cannot see the seam. So I grabbed five of my leftover acetate hearts, and this is what I'm going to do with them. I'm going to put the one on the left, one on the right. The one acetate will cover a little bit of the seam at the top part. These are going to go in different sizes, but I'm going to buckle the acetate so that it's not lying flat. I want them to look like it's floating. So I'm going to raise it up there, put a little mini glue dot at the bottom of the strip of acetate, slide it under the heart, use my pokey tool to press it down, and they're going to be poofed up, just like that, poofed up. And my card base is going to seat on there and not move at all. The seam is on the right where I'm covering it here with the gold heart. Then I'm going to put the large heart. I'm just getting them even here in size. And yeah, getting out my ruler just to be sure. There you go. I had to move that over and put some glue down. And now I'm going to get glue dots, and I'm going to put the little hearts down with the acetate. And if you're still with me, my friends, I want to thank you, because this is a long tutorial. And I hope that you were inspired and enjoyed your time with me, because I always enjoy my time with you. And even if you have to watch this in segments or you fast forward it, I'm putting a block on it to give it some weight so it'll dry while I'm doing the other side, and then I'll move the block over, putting some dots on this one so I have the black scallop on the edges, and I'm super duper happy with the design. And we're just going to move forward here. We are just about finished. All we have to do is the back of the card. I do want to show you how it looks as far as the easel hitting that little heart in the middle. It does work perfectly. I put a black heart in the center of these because there was a few that didn't get enough of the texture paste on it, so it just helped. And look at that. Now we're going to take the double-sided sequin tape off of my, this is the Taste de la Resistance of the whole card, and that is my design. I'm using liquid as well. This is the design of the floating, see, I forgot the name we were going to use already. The floating, I knew I should have written it down. It'll come to me though, it always does. So there you have it. You have the front, you lift it up, you have the inside, and now I want to cover the white of that white roll of tape. So my Copics come into play and I color all the white tape in black. That way when you look at it from side view, you don't see white, you see black. That goes with it, and isn't that sweet? Hearts everywhere, everywhere, my friend. It seats down into that heart for the easel effect, the easel design of it. The only thing that's missing is a sentiment. I didn't put one in because I'm going to put one on the back, but I didn't know what sentiment I was going to use yet. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to wait it out. This is the dots. Remember, we used the paste on that Heidi Swap the Heidi Swap stencil that was thicker, and I just wanted to not throw any paste out, so I just put it in the center there. Well, that's the little round things that we used. So it's done. It's complete. I'll have my sentiment on the back with that heart, and I'll show it to you in the envelope. Here, last night, I came back on to showcase it. I didn't showcase it before. I didn't show you slowly how it all came together. And look I left aside white. Can you believe it? Here are the textured outside of the paper stencil. On the red, there are the embossing hearts that we did on the black paper. These are 4 high hearts to hold it as the easel. You can see the acetate boinging out in the center, so it just has some dimension. It seats down in there, and my sentiment will go on the back. I haven't decided what I'm going to use. It's going to be a die cut large sentiment, like a large die, because I think it'll go perfectly with this design. I'm super happy. I think you're really going to like the envelope that I designed for this. And there you have it, my friends. I hope you enjoyed it immensely. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed creating it for you. That's what I meant to say. So have yourself a blessed week as always, and I will see you on the next tutorial. I will try to get the card envelope design up for you with a few other videos I have ready in the wings to edit and voiceover. So take care, everybody. I look forward to answering your comments. Thank you, as I always say, for liking and subscribing, of course. Take care now and enjoy the pictures, my friends. See you in the next video.